Tell us your name, please, and spell your name for the court reporter.
My name's Aubrey Wisniewski, Aubrey
And how are you currently employed, ma'am?
I work at a restaurant in Appleton, Wisconsin.
All right. And how long have you worked there?
I've worked there about 2 months.
All right. And were you employed in March of 2018?
Yes.
How were you employed in March of 2018?
I worked at Racy Delaney's Coffee Lounge in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
And did you have any specific position at Racy's?
I started as just a barista at first and then became a manager and was the manager for 3 years.
All right. And were you the manager as of March of 2018?
Yes, I was.
All right. Now, Ms. Wisniewski, as the manager in March of 2018, what were your general duties?
I made the schedule. I stocked when after hours. I just had to control the employees, really.
Okay. And were you the one who would have scheduled the employees that would have been working on March 22nd of 2018?
Yes, it was me.
And do you recall who was scheduled to work that day?
I don't recall offhand.
All right. Would your memory have been better at the time when you were interviewed in March of 2018?
Yes.
All right. And do you think reviewing a report of the interview that was conducted of you in March of 2018 would refresh your memory as to who was employed?
Yes.
All right. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
What's that?
No, we're talking amongst ourselves.
I'm just showing you a document. I want you to take a look at it for a second, and I'm going to take it away and ask if it refreshes your memory as to who was working on that particular day.
Okay.
Does that refresh your memory?
It does.
Who was working on March 22nd, 2018?
It does.
And who was working on that day?
According to that, it says Ariel Wisniewski.
Objection, that's hearsay. For memories actually refreshed, that's not.
All right, sustained in.
Right. Do you remember it at this point in time?
My sister.
Now that it's away, do you have independent, do you remember who was working? If you don't, that's fine.
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Was your memory good at the time that you were interviewed by law enforcement?
Yes,
And did you provide them with accurate information at that point in time?
I did.
All right. And do you have any reason to believe that the information in the report that you saw is inaccurate as to what happened?
I don't.
What you told them?
I don't.
Are you familiar with Alex Woodworth, or were you familiar with him?
Yes, I was.
How did you become familiar with Alex Woodworth?
He was hired on as an employee at Racy's while I was working there by another manager.
Did you become familiar with him before he was hired?
Yes, he was a regular before he was hired.
All right. And how long approximately before Alex's death in March of 2018 was he hired to work at Racy's?
About a year and some change.
Okay. And how would you describe Alex as a person?
Objection, 90404.
Your Honor, I believe it goes. Shall we approach?
All right, go ahead.
Ms. Wisniewski, specifically as to Alex's, can you tell us whether or not you would describe him as a peaceful person, a violent person, something in between?
I would say I never saw him get angry once.
Right. And did you ever see him do anything that would be considered violent?
No,
Did you ever hear him discuss violence or an interest in violence?
never.
Do you recall when the last time that you saw Alex was approximately?
It was about 3 days before he passed.
And how was he at that point in time?
He seemed himself.
Right. Was he upbeat or was he down, depressed?
I can't recall the exact emotion.
Were you familiar with the defendant in this case?
No, not very much.
Okay. Did you ever see her in races?
Yes, just as a regular.
All right. And would you ever give her a free coffee while she was there?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Overruled. You may answer.
I had before, but mostly other employees would do so.
Okay. And how long prior to his death, I know you said that Alex worked at Racy's for a year and change before his death. How long did you know him? How long had he been coming in?
Oh, probably about 2.5 years I knew him.
And when you say he was a regular, what do you mean by that?
They're almost daily,
Okay. Is that even before he started to work there?
even after he started to work there.
All right. And when he would come, would he stay for a couple minutes?
Hours.
I'm sorry?
Hours.
All right. And what would he do while he was there?
He was mostly on his computer watching shows or just sitting in a corner by himself, maybe reading.
Okay. Is that something that's unusual for people to be there long periods of time?
No, not
Objection.
at all.
Irrelevant.
Overruled.
And do you see the individual who you talked about as being the defendant in court here today?
Yes.
Could you point her out by where she's seated and what she's wearing?
To the left of Aaron Nelson, wearing glasses and a pink blazer.
To your left.
Yeah, my left.
All right. The record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Ms. McCandless.
I don't have any other questions for Ms. Wisniewski.
Okay. Any cross-examination?
Yes, please. Is Wisniewski, did I pronounce that?
Wisniewski.
Wisniewski? Were you at Racy's on March 22nd?
I was not.
Alex was a friend of yours.
Yes.
You liked him.
Yes.
Do you know who Jason Mengel is?
Yes.
Fair to say he's not a friend of yours.
Right.
He's someone you, for lack of a better term, didn't like.
Had indifferent feelings.
You've talked to the police before about this, is that right?
Yes.
And in those talks with the police, as you already went through, you were honest with them.
Yes.
You told them what you felt,
Yes.
told them what you saw.
Yes.
And this was back a year and a half ago, around March of 2018 and April of 2018, when you were meeting with the police, is that right?
Right.
And when you met with the police back then, you told them about your feelings for Jason Mengel, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, objection.
And what is the objection?
Character evidence, Your Honor, 90404 again.
90616 bias.
All right. I'm going to overrule the objection. Go ahead. You can answer.
Thank you. So back in April of 2018, when you spoke with the police, you were talking to them about Jason Mengel, right?
Right.
And you told them then that you disliked Jason. Agreed?
Objection, relevance.
I do not recall,
Hold
but
on,
he's
don't-
not a friend.
Oh, please don't answer until I've ruled on the objection. So I think you've already answered it. I'm going to overrule the objection, so the answer will stand. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
And I would ask that Mr. Nelson please speak into the microphone. I'm having some difficulty hearing him, so if he could please speak into the microphone.
All right. Well, why don't you move it a little bit closer there? Thank you.
At this point, I did not hear, because there was crosstalk, what her answer was. Could Your Honor or the court reporter read that back?
Go ahead, if you can.
You just want her answer?
Yes, please.
She said, I don't recall, but he's not a friend.
Fair to say that you told the police you've never liked Jason?
Objection, Your Honor. It's not bias of a witness. It has to be, and this is 906-16, it has to be for purposes of attacking the credibility of a witness, evidence of bias, prejudice, or interest of the witness,
Judge,
or
objection.
against any
Are we gonna
party
have-
in
Hold on.
cases
We can only have
admissible.
one talk at a time.
Are we going to have speaking objections? I didn't know that we were going to do speaking objections in front of the jury.
All right. Well, I also need my statute book if somebody has it. So,
I'll grab.
but frankly, I don't think we need to have an extensive discussion on this. I do believe it goes, thank you, to bias of the witness. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you. What I was asking, Aubrey, when you spoke with the police back in the spring of 2018, you told them you never liked Jason. Agreed?
Agreed.
You knew at that point that this young lady next to me, Ezra McCandless, was dating Jason, the man you didn't like. Agreed?
I didn't believe they were together at that time.
Okay. You knew that at some point Ezra McCandless was dating Jason Mengel, the man you didn't like. Agreed?
Objection, relevance.
And what is the relevance?
Can we approach? I mean,
All right, let's do a sidebar. I don't want to have the jury going in and out every other question here.
you had spoke with Alex about his relationships. Agreed?
Not often.
You had heard from Alex that he was dating a boy.
No, I didn't.
Did he tell you that he had a boy that was trans that he was dating?
My sister told me.
So you learned that he was dating a boy.
Correct.
Well, Your Honor, I guess I'm going to object to double hearsay at this point.
Abstain.
So
When you spoke with the police, you told them that you spoke with Alex about Alex had always talked about having a relationship with a trans male. Is that what you told the police?
I don't recall.
And you told the police that you later found out that the trans male that Alex had been talking about dating was Ezra McCandless.
Okay.
Yes?
I don't recall.
And this trans boy that Alex said that he was dating, he was bragging about how much sex he was having with that boy.
I don't recall.
He was telling you that he was tired from all of the sex that he had with that boy.
I don't believe that was me.
And you didn't know at the time, when Alex was alive, that the trans boy that he was referring to was Ezra McCandless, the woman next to me, did you? You
I
didn't know
don't
that, did
recall.
you? Alex was secretive about his relationship with Ezra?
Right.
He didn't tell anybody else about that, did he?
He told my sister, and my sister told me.
Okay. But he wasn't open about that. Agreed?
Not with me.
Did you learn about other secrets that Alex kept?
objection, relevance.
I don't
Sustained.
know what that means.
Are you familiar with Alex's journals?
I knew that he wrote.
Did he ever share what his writings were about?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to overrule on that one.
Did he ever share what his writings were about?
I have a few of his school writings that I've kept, but other than that, I didn't read his journals, no. I wouldn't let him read mine.
What was the?
I wouldn't let him read mine.
They were private, right?
Right,
They were in some ways secret, right?
sure.
And they were only to be shared with certain people, as some secrets are.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the
It calls for
objection.
speculation.
Counsel's testifying. And so if you just, I'm going to sustain. We'll leave it there. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson, with the next question.
You're not familiar with his private secret journal writings, agreed?
Objection
That's what I
asked and
said.
answered.
Sustain.
Those are the only questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Wisniewski. You may step down. And is there any reason she cannot be excused?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Ms. Wisniewski, you're free to go. Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe that there are any additional witnesses today. We are going to begin with testimony tomorrow morning at 8:30. So we want you back here early enough to be ready to go at 8:30. We'll try to start right on time. I'd also, again, want to admonish you again. It's very, very important that you not read anything about this case or watch any television coverage or listen to anything on the radio regarding this coverage or anything on the internet. Do not do any research or look at anything on social media. To be on the safe side, maybe you just stay away from that. Find something else to look at or read or listen to, as it, again, it's very important that you as members of the jury don't contaminate yourselves with any other information that, as I gave you that instruction yesterday, that may confuse you or conflate what you hear here in court. You must decide this case based on the evidence received in this proceeding and not base it on any other information. Don't do any other research. Discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. And with that, I guess we're going to excuse you for the evening. Okay? All rise.
Is it okay if I stand, Judge?
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to take up, I guess, in reverse order, the most recent sidebar, 423, during Ms. Wisniewski's testimony. I don't know, counsel, I don't remember whose objection it was, but I believe that it was Mr. DeFore's objection. Mr. Nelson, do you want to be heard on that? Make a record?
No, Judge. I think, I'm not sure which side. I think I objected at one point about recorded recollection, and Your Honor sustained that. And
Okay,
then I
I'll get to
believe-
that one. I'll get to that one next. But
Okay, sorry. And then I believe the state objected to relevancy. We had a sidebar. We both made arguments. Your Honor, my understanding was ruled that it was irrelevant.
all right, I believe I sustained the objection where Mr. Nelson was going into the relationship and the dislike of Mr. Mengel and his connection to the defendant, Ms. McCandless. And before it went any further, the court sustained that objection. And as I understand it, part of the argument by the state was that Ms. Wisniewski was not aware of the relationship between Mr. Mengel and Ms. McCandless, and therefore she could not have been biased by the fact that Ms. McCandless was dating Mr. Mengel. That's my recollection of that sidebar. Mr. DeFore, anything you want to put on the record regarding that sidebar?
I believe the court has accurately summarized that sidebar, Your Honor.
All right, we had a sidebar at 4:11, again, where the court had sustained the objection that was made, and I would have to look back on that one. Anyone want to make a record with respect to that?
I believe if that was by
That
the
was
same,
the recorded recollection one.
That was
I believe,
recorded
Your Honor,
recollection.
And
All right.
we withdrew the question and withdrew the matter, so.
All right, and just for the record, the court agreed with the defense that there was a police report of an officer, and although he recorded what the witness said, it was not the recorded recollection made by Ms. Wisniewski herself. It wasn't her own recording or her own notes of what had occurred, so the court sustained the objection on that ground. As it relates to the sidebar at 413, frankly, the defense essentially made the objection to the open-ended question about character, and Mr. Dufour agreed to be more pointed in his questioning to the specific issue of character for peacefulness or violence, and as I recall things. Anything you would like to state further with respect to that, Mr. Nelson?
No, Judge.
Okay, and Mr. Dufour?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, then. Any other issues related to the last two witnesses that counsel would like to put on the record?
Nothing.
Nothing from
All right.
the state.
Now, the issue was brought up by the defense with respect to the camera placement.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead, Mr. Nelson, if you would just make a record of what your objection is or what your request is.
There's a camera, I don't know, Your Honor, 8 feet directly in front of Ms. McCandless. Essentially, if she looks to Your Honor, she's looking straight at the camera between its position between her and Your Honor. And I believe that camera is focused on her almost exclusively, entirely, the entire time. I've not been paying attention to courttv.com or any of the other, I've been here working, but what I've heard secondhand is that there's lots of commentary upon Ms. McCandless's allegedly staring into said camera, which is, again, where someone would naturally look in court when they're sitting at this table and looking forward. And so our request is that that camera be moved so as to be not in Ms. McCandless's direct view, so she cannot be accused of, I don't know, pandering to the camera or something like that when it's literally in front of her face.
All right. Well, here's the situation. The court approved the camera placement. It's consistent with the media order. This is a public trial. It essentially captures what it is that the court, the view from the bench, basically. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it. So the people, the jury should not be looking at the court TV, the people that would be deciding this case. And again, I accommodated the objections that were made about court TV. Maybe this is one of those things that the defense hadn't thought of. But at this point, I'm not going to change it because, again, the camera can be zoomed in. It can be, as I understand it, could be a wider angle. But we have, again, allowed this coverage, and the camera doesn't move. It's not making any noise. And frankly, if you can ignore the camera, if it's causing some other problems, I guess I'll revisit that. I'll note your objection. But again, this is not something, if the jury is following the instructions of the court, they will not be seeing this, nor will they be seeing the commentary. And so I'm going to leave it where it is. Okay? All right. So noted.